Hey there, this is TJR. You know, in 2014, Marvel Studios released Guardians of the Galaxy. It was the 10th movie in what was now the Marvel Cinematic Universe, juggernaut of motion pictures. And it was a bit of a risk at the time, even more so than a risk than their first film, Iron Man. Iron Man was not a well-known character to movie audiences in general, but at least the character was well-known to the comic book fan base. But here we had a property that was not even that well known by most comic book fans. And so Marvel was really reaching into a very obscure property to expand their movie universe, to really introduce us to more of the cosmic elements of their what was going to be their comic book universe adapted to motion pictures. In the previous films, we had gotten some hints of the more cosmic, intergalactic aspects of the Marvel Universe in the Avengers movie. We'd gotten some hints, but here this movie just broke it wide open and was an enormous hit, dealing with a very little known property. And what made it work? Well, first of all, there was just the confidence that had already been developed between movie audiences and the studio with their first 9 movies. But the second thing was the characters. Once again, and this is kind of the underlying thing, I think, with pretty much all the films, is the characters, giving us characters that we relate to, identify with, want to hang out with, characters that we really love or love to hate, or characters that we just want to see more of. And this was especially true with the first Guardians of the Galaxy. And now take a moment and think about the characters in that film. Here you are pitching a motion picture about some desperate intergalactic outlaws who suddenly become the heroes, the good guys. And amongst those characters, you have a talking tree and you have a talking raccoon. I can't imagine that pitch going anywhere with any outside studio except for Marvel Studios, where they already know these characters, they already know these properties, and they have confidence in them because they've worked for them in the comic books that they publish. In this second Guardians of the Galaxy, of course, things are amped up, and that's what movie audiences want. We want to see kind of a repeat of what we saw before, but we want it even bigger. And they do deliver this. Everything is more amped up. There is more action. There is even more of the laughs. There's more of the far-out, crazy, off-the-wall, wacky, cosmic stuff just pushed even further in this second film. Also, there is more of the 70s music soundtrack in this film. One thing I applaud is this time they're going for some more of the obscure 70s hit songs. It's really easy and safe to just go with the hits that everybody knows. Anybody can do that. They certainly played it safe in the first film. They're willing to play it not so safe in this second film, and I do applaud that. And the film is also pushing just how far it can go with all the sheer, wacky, cosmic goofiness. And nowhere is this more typified than in a certain Stan Lee cameo featuring some very tall, very large-headed characters and a second appearance by a duck that I'm sure many hardcore Marvel comic fans will recognize. And throughout, the whole film seems to almost verge on overkill. I mean, literally, with all of the action and explosions and craziness, cosmic deities, and just all of this. It feels like the film is almost going to train wreck towards, what we would refer to, and I'm going to just bleep out my own language, a cluster, if you know what I'm talking about. But what keeps it from happening, what keeps this film from just literally being crushed under its own weight, is the characters and the character interplay. When the film opens, we see that the team has been together now for some time between now and the last film. They've been on a lot more assignments. At the beginning of the film, they've been commissioned to take care of a situation with a giant monster that they're going to have to fight. And we see that they've spent a lot more time with each other. And the one thing this film does is give us lots of character beats, lots of character moments, and lots of character arcs, and lots of character background. We get more of what makes Peter Quill tick? What makes him think the way he does? What makes Gamora think the way she does? What makes Rocket think the way that he does? We also get more into characters that we may have thought were villains, characters like Yondu, characters like Nebula. We find out more about where they're coming from, what their backstory is. One of the things that I remember when I was young and I was reading comic books, the things that really struck me about the difference between when I was reading DC Comics versus Marvel Comics at the time was that in Marvel, you could have characters who maybe started out as bad guys, but then became good guys. You could have characters that started out as good guys and then maybe became bad guys. As a kid, that was just kind of earth-shattering to me. And nowadays, we see that a lot in our contemporary television and our contemporary movies. But back then, everything was very clearly defined in TVs and movies. Who were the good guys, who were the bad guys, and ne'er the twain shall meet. And certainly that was true in comic books until Marvel came along and really started to mess with that idea. And in that respect, they were very groundbreaking, and that influence is still being felt today in today's contemporary TV shows, where a show like Breaking Bad, where we have a main character who starts out in one spot as a good person, but then ends up somewhere else. Before this film is over, you're going to have a completely different attitude towards Nebula and why she acts the way she does. She has very good reasons for being one of the bad guys. And we find out that Gamora has a lot to do with it, and that she has to answer for it, and that she may have to still answer for it in future films. Probably about the only character that we don't get any more backstory on is, of course, Groot. But then at the beginning of this film, Groot is now a baby again. And Groot really is a baby in the literal sense. Groot thinks and acts like a very small child. And every single character has a moment where they are very paternal to baby Groot. And in my opinion, that is what saves this movie. Sure, the gags are great. All the action is great. But this film has so much of that I really think this film would have been crushed under its own weight if it had not stopped to breathe and give us all these character moments and all this character backstory and really help us to get to know these characters just that much better. Now we understand them a lot more, we care about them more. Because while this film has all this stuff going on, it's also got this subtle undertone of how we interact as families, and the families that we are born with versus the families that we choose to create for ourselves, and the choices we have to make as to which families we decide to be with. Of course, when you're watching a film that is this, and I'm going to use a 70s quote here, far out, there are certain things that you just have to kind of accept. If you spend too much time questioning how a celestial godlike being who has never had any contact with any other sentient beings could arrive to the conclusion that sentient life elsewhere must look like Kurt Russell, then this is probably not the movie for you. It is, however, the movie for the rest of us. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is a fun thrill ride. And it would have been just crushed under its own weight had it not been for the writing, had it not been for the strong character writing and all the great character development that we got in this film. And as I walked out of it, I thought to myself, wow, I can't wait till the next Avengers film when the Guardians of the Galaxy are going to team up with the Avengers. Not because I can't wait to see the badass action, even though I do want to see the badass action, but because I can't wait to hear the conversations. I can't wait to see the character interplay between those two groups of characters. I can't wait to see Captain America react to the Guardians of the Galaxy and say something like, "You mean you guys take payment for this?" This is TJR. Have you seen the movie? What did you think? I'm looking forward to your comments. Thanks for watching. Bye.